Good Friday morning, y'all. What's going on, everybody? Back here, Banter. I know it's been a while. We were gone last week. We didn't get a chance to bring you guys our latest topics and discussions last week, but we have good reasoning behind that. Since the last time we had a Baron Banter 2 Fridays ago, Brandon found himself a new job. He'll be starting at the end of the month. I myself found myself a new job and then was recently promoted. So we have good reason as to why we were not on the air last week, but we do apologize. We're back here, Tyler Zulli, alongside my partner in crime and nuisance of a younger brother, Brandon Zulli. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. I can't wait to get this started. There's 2 weeks of catching up.
2 weeks of catching up to do, and really there's no other way to start the show other than...
I wish there was.
Charlottesville, Virginia. I don't think there's any other way to get around it. We have to talk about it. It's just what's going on in the world and in the United States today. So let's start it. We'll get this one over with. We'll get to some more fun topics on the other side, but we have to talk about this.
First want to say thoughts and prayers with all the families and victims of the incident. This was senseless violence, and once again I ask for just a week where nothing happens.
Now, I'm gonna throw a big question at you right away.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna start off heavy. Those people that were marching in the streets, by the way, with tiki torches, they went to their local Ace Hardware or Home Depot or Walmart and was like, "Hey, let me get 700 tiki torches." And they're like, "What? Okay, I guess here's 700 tiki torches."
Well, it's got a multi-purpose use, from racist rallies, Jimmy Buffett concerts, shark bait initiations.
Backyard barbecue. So they're marching down the street in Charlottesville, and here's the heavy question for you guys, or for you. Just you today, no Chris. Here's the heavy question for you. Is it fair, or is it unfair, to call these people neo-Nazis?
No, that's what they are.
That's what I'm getting at.
They were like waving. Weren't they waving Nazi flags?
Yeah.
So why would it be unfair? Who's saying it's unfair?
That's just the question that's being posed.
No, it's not unfair. It's a factual statement.
Well, they're walking around with Nazi flags. They're walking around with white supremacist mantras and thoughts on their minds.
Confederate flags.
Well, and that's really the thing too. Is, you say that they're not racist or they're not Nazis, but yet they walk around with Nazi flags and they walk around saying our soil. Basically, we're taking back the land. This is white America.
Yeah. Which, again, the way we say it, why would you choose the Confederate flag? The Confederate flag was an armed insurrection against America.
Well, we're going to put this out there just to start this show because this needs to be said. The Confederate States of America, while they had America in the name, were not part of the United States. They were treasonists. They were insurrectionists, like you said. They left the country and rebelled in order to start their own.
Yes.
Therefore, explain to me how a Confederate flag waving is not a sign of insurrection.
I don't think it can be.
And here's the deal. The people that are trying to take down the statues, and we're going to get to this in more detail, or take down the statues and say don't fly Confederate flags, whatever. If you take down the statues, you're watering down the history of the country. Because in the South, in those countries, these people were great generals and great leaders. If you're going to tell me that Robert E. Lee is a racist because he was the great general of the Confederate Army, I'm going to tell you, read up on history books, because Robert E. Lee was an amazing war general.
Yes.
And he just got topped by a better one.
Not a good person, but a good general.
So the thing is, he is part of this American culture and the American history. If you're going to water down the American history, then let's just take out any bad thing that ever happened. Let's take out the fact that the United States didn't win Korea or Vietnam. Never happened. Let's take out the fact that the Spanish completely annihilated those at the Alamo, because it never happened. It was just bad times. Let's take out the fact that the United States forced Native Americans to walk all the way across the country and settle in small little reservations, because we don't want that to be in our history books.
I understand that point of view. I think, at least the way I look at it, the statues kind of are a way of glorifying what they stood for. And, black citizens, African American citizens, minorities, they all walk past them. And they're walking on streets named for Confederate generals with statues of Confederate soldiers and all that stuff. And it's kind of, I could see that as being, as wrong or maybe even offensive. But I do get your point where it is part of history and we can't change history. I
want to put this out there. I'm not defending in any way those who tout a Confederate flag or those who tout the Nazi flag. They're
scum.
In the simplest of terms, they're racist.
Mm-hmm.
And those that have fired shots or used aggressive force and violent force should be punished to the fullest extent of the law. There's just no way around it. All I'm saying here is the difference between flying the Confederate flag and bringing down statues, I think, is different. I think they're two separate entities. Because you're looking at a Confederate nation as opposed to people of the area. Yeah, that would be like, had the Union lost the war, would there be statues of Ulysses S. Grant?
I don't think there would.
Would there be statues of Abraham Lincoln? Because had the Union lost the war, I don't think Abraham Lincoln would be considered as highly touted and highly respected of a president as he was.
No. Well, as we know, history is written by the victor.
History is written by the winners. Now we're gonna really dive into some history here. We're gonna kind of pull this full circle here. Do you know how the Union ended up defeating the Confederate Army?
I do not.
So effectively, what the Union did was there were a couple different things they did. Have you ever heard of the term scorched earth?
Yes.
So scorched earth is when an army defeats another army and they go in and they burn everything.
Mm-hmm.
They burn the land, they burn the homes. They basically ensure that the losing battalion or losing army can't come back to that land and rejuvenate it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically what the Union did was cut off trade routes that the Confederacy held as strong points. They cut them down first, and that basically what happened was all of the supplies were being funneled into where the battles were being fought. Some from Virginia down, some from as far as Florida up. When they cut the trade routes off, basically Confederate soldiers were going days and weeks at a time without resupplying. They were very short on food. They had no shoes and clothes. They were short on medical supplies. The Union basically strategically wiped them out by taking out trade routes. And that's how the Union was able to quickly end the war. Because when the trade routes started getting taken out, and when the supply stops started getting taken out, many Confederate soldiers started waning in their loyalty to the Confederate Army. They started fleeing, their numbers dwindled, the Union ended up winning the war. Had that not happened, and the Confederacy continued to fight, if they'd have won the war, obviously the entire outcome of the United States would have changed. You don't think that Ulysses S. Grant statue would have been erected?
I can't say that I would. I don't think it would be erected because I see, just say the Union and, what we have now as a more open-minded and free-thinking kind of people. And if the South would have won, more open-minded people would be too afraid to speak, and it would just be one way, one kind of people. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else is allowed.
I would almost guarantee you, if the Confederacy had won the Civil War, there probably at some point 20 to 30 years down the line would have been Civil War II.
You think so?
I think so.
Do you think we like?
The Union had the manpower and the supply power.
So they would have just started up another war when they were ready and crushed the South.
I think so.
So
here's the only thing.
No way would the South would have won.
Here's the only thing is that had the Confederacy won, they would have been their own country. Westward expansion would have stopped, and the United States would be about half of what it is. The Louisiana Purchase would be the furthest west that would go. And westward expansion would have stopped. California probably would have become a slave state. Arizona and New Mexico would eventually become slave states.
But in this hypothetical, if the North would have fought again, wouldn't it all just become one country again?
Eventually, I would think. I think that that would be my mindset would be that they would have fought a second one. But that's all just theory. That's the hypothetical.
We luckily don't have to.
We're dealing in hypothetical, and I'll put it this way: as we get this back to Charlottesville. Yesterday, I worked with a 3-man crew where I was stationed. It was myself, another white guy, and one black guy, and we were discussing it. We were saying, what's going on? Why is it getting so bad? And I said to the black guy I was working with, I can't fathom Black Lives Matter. And I'll tell you why. It's not because I don't want them to do it. It's because I'm not black. So I don't get the injustice that they're under. I don't face that. I don't live that. So I don't truly understand what they're going through. I'm not saying that I don't think what they're going through is wrong, and I'm not saying that what they're doing is right or wrong. What I'm saying is I can't fathom it as a white man, that prejudice. I don't wake up every day thinking that there are people who want me dead or people who want me out of this country. So I don't personally understand it. However, I get why they're pissed off and I get why they're trying to rally because it's 2017. The civil rights movement was closing in on started about 60 years ago. And basically, at this point, we are getting to a point in a society we're almost reverting back to the 1960s. Where black people are considered by many whites to be second-class citizens. And that's simply not true. We can't go back to the 1960s. Because if we go back to the 1960s, and we have white people believing that they are the dominant race and asserting themselves. The KKK has always been around. But it's been a subculture niche group where they haven't really done anything lately. Now all of a sudden they're starting to come back around. The Nazi Party's seemingly starting to gain some ground, at least maybe not a Nazi party, but a Nazi followers. If we revert back to the 1960s, we are going to have major issues in this country, way worse than what we have right now.
Now, do you think the president has anything to do with them resurfacing?
Oh, absolutely. I think he absolutely does. And it's not along the lines of Trump is an outward racist, because he seems to say just enough
for people
to hold his cards to his chest.
But I think what he doesn't say at times, like with
is the right thing.
No, what he doesn't say speaks more sometimes than what he does say. Because in the interview with about Charleston, when he was asked about reprimanding the white nationalists and the Nazis, he just walked out of the room, didn't say anything, didn't even give like a nod, just like, yeah, I agree with you, they should be punished. It was just, he didn't say anything.
There's no damning sentiment to these racists. He's not giving them an ultimatum that says, here's your options. You stop, or we're bringing in the National Guard. Or we're bringing, and you're going to all start getting arrested. He never issued an ultimatum. He issued an apology and said that they were racist. But then on the same coin, he said, well, both sides are causing problems.
Which, again,
they're two completely different groups.
Which, again, brings back to, do you think he supports them?
I think closetly he does.
So, given a choice, do you think he would rather reprimand the protesters of the supremacist rally?
I think that...
Do you think he would take the hit by doing that?
No, he's not going to take the hit like that because that's a death sentence. If he starts to do that, he'll be impeached. Impeachment paperwork will begin within the week. So no, he's not going to outwardly say, you're all bad people. But he is going to outwardly say, both sides are causing problems. Which really is not what you need your president to say when a bunch of neo-Nazis are marching down the streets of a city in your country. And this stuff has come a lot closer to home in recent years than it has in the past. If you look at the 1960s and you look at the civil rights movement, where did a majority of the racial tension and the racial aggression come?
South?
In the deep South. Mobile, Alabama, Montgomery, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia. Deep states within the country that are deep in the South.
Mm-hmm.
That lived a different lifestyle. I'm not advocating for these people, and I don't want to say that it was a different culture because that's just not what I'm getting at. It's more of an excuse than what I'm trying to get at. But now what I'm trying to compare is that happened in the deep South, of the deep parts of Mississippi, Alabama. A lot of country, or I keep saying country, a lot of counties within states that grew up that way. Now you're into Charlottesville, Virginia, which is significantly closer to the northern side of things, to this nation's capital. What's to say that we've moved from the deep South to Charlottesville? What's to say that it's not going to move upwards into Baltimore, into D.C., eventually get into Philadelphia, New York, go out to Chicago, Los Angeles? All the major cities in this country could get hit relatively soon with this new age white supremacy thought process that's coming around that's just simply not correct.
I think I can't honestly say why it's moving up. But once again, I don't know, man. I can't really fathom how it's growing in this day and age, even moving up, which would seem almost impossible with the way people think in places like Philadelphia or New York, it's just, how can backwater thinking such as this thrive in today's snowflake age?
How can it?
How can it?
Because you have to understand, the people that are down in Charlottesville right now are the vocal white supremacist people. There are people all over this country that will sit there and say to you, in the setting like this where we're in a basement where it can't come out in a negative light, that'll say, yeah, I truly believe that white people are better than all other races. Those people aren't the ones that are going to go out and protest. Those people are the ones that are quietly building up. And they're all over the place. They're not just in the South. Yeah. They're not just in Charlottesville protesting now. They're all over the country that believe that there still should be white supremacy. That's how it's going to continue to move upwards. It may not be the same open protest as it is in Charlottesville right now, but it's going to continue to move upwards because there are people that use every racial slur in the book and say that if you're not white, you're wrong, basically.
Do you think there will ever be a time when some group like that, like the KKK or the Nazi Party, ever grow to be as powerful as they were back in the day?
I don't think they'll grow as powerful because, like I said, not as many people are outwardly adamant about it.
But like you said, there's people all over the country.
Correct.
Which has been the case for, ever. And say, Trump, like again, I'll bring it back to Trump. Say he doesn't condemn any of the white supremacists, and they start getting more bold and more vocal, and then it brings the people who are saying these things behind closed doors out into the public. They join. They start growing more in power. Sorry, my throat just cracked a little.
I'm sorry. Did you just turn 12?
I think I did.
Your balls just dropped?
But I'm being honest. What's to stop the people behind closed doors coming out if these white supremacists start getting more and more bold and start having more rallies and keep moving north?
Laws. There are laws now against these things. And there are people who will stop you now. There were not these kind of laws back in the 50s and 60s. There were segregatory laws that prevented whites and blacks from being in the same places. That's not a thing anymore. So these segregatory laws are what allowed these white people to openly do what they're doing now in Charlottesville more often in the 50s and 60s. It's not going to happen now as much.
So are we just to, other than the attack with the person hopping in his car and hitting all those people, everything else just the protest and everything, are we just supposed to sweep that under First Amendment right?
I think, unfortunately, with the country that we live in, yeah, they're going to have to. Because every person has the right to protest and to have freedom of speech. That is 2 of the 5 major parts of the First Amendment: freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. You're allowed to do these things under the law. Is it right what they're doing? No, absolutely not. But legally, unless they make aggressive moves, like the guy running his car into people, or them starting to beat each other up, legally, you can't really do anything about it. Because they're not making claims of attacking. Nobody ever said that they're going to attack, for the most part, and they're not making claims that say we're going to blow up the government. And unless you make direct threats like that, the police unfortunately can't really do anything except send you home if they think it's getting too out of control. And until you make an aggressive move, they can't arrest you.
Got a question for you. I think this might take up my question for today, but do you think, I won't say, I think we can agree that 2016 was a bad year.
It was a bad year.
And so far, I don't think 2017 has been as bad, but it's still a pretty bad year. Do you think back in the past there was just as much bad shit going on, but because we couldn't find out about it as quickly, or maybe since we were just a little bit younger, we didn't hear about it as much?
Well, there's no doubt about it. I mean, there is turmoil everywhere, every generation. It's just the fact that...
But do you think it's been as bad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, go back through the annals of history. If you take a look at it, like we said, the 50s and 60s, civil rights movement. Yeah. The 20s, the Great Depression. 1860s, you take a look at slavery. The 20s also, women's suffrage. Go back even further. The Revolutionary War. Basically, the Revolutionary War, if it boils down to it, was an insurrection movement. It was against tyrannical government, which the Union was not in terms of the Confederacy, but it was still an insurrection movement. They rose up against them and revolted. So you go back to that. You go back even further. I mean, Rome building up an empire, probably mostly through illegal maneuvers and warfare, at least by today's standards. There's always been newsworthy pieces in the world. It's just the fact that we have now a government that, I shouldn't say government, I should say a media instead, that portrays everything, that gets everything out in seconds after it happened, thanks to handheld cameras that are just as good. If you take this iPhone in my hand and you take a camera from the 1990s, I bet you this records better video.
Of course.
It's just how it's going to be. And that is why there are quicker, more efficient news being put out, and that's why we see more, we hear more, we know more. If you weren't living in a major city at the time of the 1950s and 60s, if you weren't in the South directly, or you weren't in Philadelphia, Washington, Baltimore, Chicago, New York, you weren't getting this news nearly as quickly as you would have been today. You can live in Walla Walla, Washington, and know the news just as fast as you do here in Philadelphia. That's why it looks like there's more going on, but it's
just the information.
It's just the information coming in more quickly. That's all. What are you laughing at?
I'm just, once again, I gotta ask for 1 week.
No, it's never gonna happen. You can just stop asking.
I know it's never gonna happen.
It's just never gonna happen. You could just stop asking right now. Because you're never going to get it. It's just how this world works. They're imperfect people in an imperfect world. It's just how it is. Let me shut this one down real quick with this little segment. There was a statue. We'll go back to the statue vandalization. There was a statue of Abraham Lincoln that was vandalized recently. And people are kind of in a protest about it, saying, haven't you read a history book? Don't you know that Abraham Lincoln was the man that freed the slaves? Now, I want to get your opinion on this and how much you know about what Abraham Lincoln did and Abraham Lincoln's time up until the freeing of slaves.
Well, I mean, I know if Abraham Lincoln had a choice between freeing slaves and ratifying the Union, he would have picked ratifying the Union, right?
Of course. He would
have gotten the country back together at all costs.
He wanted the country together as his one main priority. That's all he wanted. If it meant freeing slaves in the process, he was going to have to do it. But he did not want the country to fall into shambles. That was his main goal. But let me ask you this. You know what speech is said to have freed the slaves, correct?
Emancipation Proclamation.
The Emancipation Proclamation. Let me ask you something. How many slaves approximately did the Emancipation Proclamation free?
0.
Absolutely 100% 0. And the reason is the Emancipation Proclamation freed the slaves in the northern states that were still a part of the Union.
Which were
already free. The Emancipation Proclamation had absolutely 0 credibility in the Confederate States. Why? Because they weren't a part of the United States and part of the Union. Abraham Lincoln had no control over the Confederate States. They had their own president, and Jefferson Davis was their own president. So he made the rules and the dictations. So the Emancipation Proclamation freed 0 slaves at the time. When the Confederate States rejoined the Union, it was enacted that slavery was officially abolished. Once the war was over and Reconstruction happened, that's when slavery became abolished. However, at the time, the Emancipation Proclamation freed 0 slaves. It's not to say that Abraham Lincoln wasn't a major driving force in the freedom of slaves. However, he was not adamantly against slavery like people think he was. He himself believed that slavery was a necessary evil. And he felt that while it wasn't necessarily right, it drove the economy within the United States, especially within the South, where there was a lot of cotton to be picked and fields to be done and things like that. He believed that slavery was a necessary evil. He said, however, if it was between keeping the country together and not freeing slaves, he was going to keep the country together. Now, unfortunately, the way it worked out was the fact that he needed to kind of do both. And that, I shouldn't say unfortunately.
Which ended up in a war.
I shouldn't say unfortunately. I should say really it ended up causing, the war was caused by the fact that he couldn't do both. The war escalated the fact that he needed to free the slaves. And of course, like we said, it didn't do anything in the South at that point. However, it was a driving factor as to when the countries got back together into one unified country that slavery was abolished officially. So, with that being said, why are we vandalizing Abraham Lincoln's statue?
I think it's just people trying to retaliate who think he's the man who freed slaves. He's the one who fought against the South. And he's the one, like, his statue is the one we should take it on.
It wasn't Southerners who destroyed the statue. No.
Really? Who was it? I just assumed. I had not read this.
It was not. It was those in the North. People in the northern states.
Then that is a good question.
It doesn't make any sense, does it?
It makes no sense.
No sense whatsoever. But we'll finish it on that note. We'll take a break. We're already almost a half an hour into the show. We'll come back on the other side with a hodgepodge of topics. We're just going to go rapid fire everything today. That was our big segment to get across. Other than that, it's going to be way more lighthearted and fun. You're listening to Baron Banter right here on YouTube and Twitter. Welcome back into this Friday's edition of Baron Banter. Tyler Zulli alongside Brandon Zulli. We're sorry we weren't able to do any podcast last week. We had some other priorities we had to take care of, but we are back. This is episode 13? 13 or 12?
I believe this is 13.
Episode 13.
I may be wrong on that.
We're getting deeper into it. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, just 12 more episodes. Actually, I should say 11 more episodes until we get to episode 25, which will, in fact, be the very first Banty Awards. We'll get an episode where myself, Brandon, and Chris are all on.
I apologize. This is episode 12.
Episode 12. Okay, so 12 more episodes until we get to the Banties, and we'll explain that more in detail as we get closer. But we're going to turn a complete 180 here. We just talked about some very tragic news that's happening throughout the country. We kind of compared it back to the 1950s and 60s and into the 1850s and 60s with the Civil War. Now let's turn a 180 and let's talk some happy news. Brandon, what do you got for us?
So I was looking up news stories, and most of all of them were Trump or having to do with Charleston or racist in general.
Charlottesville, not Charleston.
I've been saying Charleston, haven't I?
It's Charlottesville.
I am sorry. I haven't been, I'm kind of out of this, but I got really depressed when looking at those, so I really wanted to do rapid fire news because I love doing this. I love just getting through a lot of topics, but I didn't want to do more depressing news again, like woman or man kills wife because she laughed at him, or guy crashed his Ferrari. So I just looked up a couple of happy news stories. So we're gonna go through them. I'm gonna get your opinion and just try and feel good about the world.
All right, let's do it.
So this one, it was more of a video, but I thought it was funny. There was this toddler in a mall who started waving, saying "Hi, Dad," who was speaking to a Batman statue. One of the ones out of FYE.
Right.
The one that looks like the Arkham City
a cardboard
statue.
cutout?
No, it was like the
full-size statue.
It looked like the Arkham one outside of FYE in the Chamonix. And I just thought it was funny. I'll put the link in the description, but the first one, however, is, I believe it is Florida. A Florida county.
Hold on, that's it for Batman? That was just like a side note?
Just a side note. I just thought it was funny. There's really nothing to that one. It just makes you feel good. It's funny. But a Florida county is banning homework and asking parents to read with their kids instead. So, would you think this is good or bad? Obviously, kids are like, yeah, no homework. But then again, you can't really enforce parents reading to their kids.
Well, and I think that this is not a great idea as they think it is, because you're looking at it and you say, it's great. They're in school for 6 to 7 hours a day. They have to get up at an ungodly hour, which scientifically, by the way, is said to be starting too early. Yes. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent real quick. Scientists have come up with a start time that's ideal for students to start school each day. And I believe they said that start time is somewhere between 9 and 9:30. And if you look at any school, basically across the country, younger students start at maybe about 8:30. Mm-hmm. High school, I don't know about you guys, my high school bell rang at 7:20 every day. That was the start of school.
I believe ours was around that time.
We started
as well.
at 7:20 every day. And as somebody 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, I was not in the right state of mind in first period, and probably not even until maybe towards the end of second period. Because you figure I think my classes were about 45 minutes each, which means that my start time for third period, well, we did it weird, I'll put it this way. My schedule went first period, second period, homeroom, third period. Don't know why. Nobody else does it that way, but that's what we did it at school. But by the time homeroom came around, it was like 8:45. I was finally starting to wake up and kind of adjust to the day. Mm-hmm. So these kids that have to be, you have to be in school at 7:20. That's crazy. So, but you're in school at 7:20. You go to school for 6-7 hours a day. You get out at 2:30. A lot of students have extracurricular activities, whether it be sports, band, clubs, student council, whatever you're in. A lot of guys and girls have extracurricular activities. So you finally get home 4:30. And then you have 3 hours of homework to pile on top of that. That is absolutely insane. So I get why they're limiting homework. However, I think a little bit of homework is necessary.
Yes.
I'll put it this way. I had a math teacher my sophomore year of high school who would give us, you know how in your math textbooks it would be like sectional work? So it would be like 10 problems of this, 10 problems of this type of problem, 10 problems of this.
Yeah.
And most teachers were like, all right, do 1 to 30. This teacher, however, would sit there and say, he'd go, all right, do 1 to 3, 11 to 12, and 15 to 22.
That's insane. I can't keep track of
that.
Well,
no, it was a good thing. Because his thought process was, if you can do this confidently in 2 or 3 problems, you can do it for 20 problems. There's no need for you to do 50 math problems every night. If you can do 3 from this section and 3 from this section and 3 from this section, you have confidently shown me you can do problems on 3 different topics while only having to do 9 or 10 questions. It takes you 20 minutes to get it done if you know what you're doing, and you're done for the day in that subject. That makes sense to me because it shows a mastery of problem solving without burning students out. I don't know about you, but I remember by the time Friday rolled around, and for me it was like a culture shock when I first started getting homework on the weekend. Because in grade school we never got homework on Fridays. But by the time Friday rolled around, I had done, 28 to 30 hours of school, another 15 hours of homework, plus 4 baseball practices, plus, trying to get regular sleep, that by the time Friday rolled around, it was like, I got to go home and take a nap before I do anything on Friday night.
Yep.
And that's why I was sleeping from 11 p.m. till 11 a.m. the next day, because you're so mentally and physically drained by the time the weekend rolls around that you need that time to sleep. So I think homework in moderation is good.
Limited, yes.
Yes. Homework in moderation is a good thing. It reinforces what you learned in school. And it forces you, if you didn't pay attention or you didn't quite get it, to reread everything and catch up on it. But I think if you can do it in 3 problems, there's no need for you to do 20.
Yes. So, this next one isn't really a news article. I think it was just, someone caught it and people started rolling with it. Mm-hmm. So, this mom asked to reschedule the 21st solar eclipse and because kids start going back to school around that time.
Yeah, sure. You know what, ma'am? Let me just give me one moment. I'm going to get on the phone. Let me call the fucking sun and try to reschedule. Tell him it's not a good day for us.
God.
Do me a favor.
We need the moon pushed back like a day. Just please.
Whatever you can do. We'll take the tidal wave effect afterwards. Jeez.
Next one is, apparently someone had stolen a man's dog.
Uh-huh.
And they went to a courtroom. And the woman
I didn't see this one.
Brought the dog to the courtroom, and the dog starts trying to rush to its owner.
Right.
First of all, if you stole a dog,
why bring it back?
Why bring it into the courtroom with its owner? It's going to try and go to the owner.
Dogs have linear thinking. They see their owner, especially if the owner treats them well, they're going to want to be with their owner.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it. This dog, I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, so I'm not going to use he, she. I know that sounds stupid, but this dog sprints to the man.
Yeah.
And I mean, starts jumping up on his leg and playing up on his back legs, trying to get up the man's leg.
And doesn't do it to anybody else.
And then the woman, the defendant, says, "Oh, he does that to everybody."
Clearly not.
Not obviously, because this is the first person he went to.
Yep.
He didn't come back to you after he went to the man. He stayed with the man.
Yep.
And Judge Judy went, "Get out of here. That's your dog."
All right. So next one. University of Minnesota football coach.
The new one?
Oh, no. Sorry, that's the start of the headline. Apparently, a college football player who spends almost all of his time with sick kids and kids in need was given, I believe, a full ride to his college.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so great about that because it's someone who gives back, who gives back all his time and his effort,
right? And
finally gets a reward of a scholarship to the college he loves and gets to keep playing the sport he loves.
Right. Well, and the thing is with these scholarships is, there are students who academically thrive and aren't athletes that have to pay full rides to their school. There are students who academically do horrible, just barely make the cut, that are athletes that get a free ride because they're athletes. And you know why they get the free ride? Because they make money for the institution.
Yep.
Tyler Zulli, the broadcaster, made no money for Penn State. Christian Hackenberg, the quarterback, made millions of dollars for Penn State. We're not comparable. We do two different things. We have two different skill sets. He's now an NFL quarterback, which means he's still making money for Penn State and for the New York Jets, whereas I'm just going to pay my tuition. And I get it. And that's why athletes get their scholarships, because they make money for the school. But it's nice to see that somebody who's genuinely a good person and works well and gives back to his community gets on scholarship.
Next one is Daryl Davis. It's a 58-year-old black blues musician player, has spent the last 3 years befriending a white supremacist to change their way of thinking. And first of all, how the hell did this guy manage to change one? I think it says, give me 2 minutes, I'll find out, I think it says how many he's befriended. It doesn't say. I think it was in at least a dozen or so, maybe even more, I can't remember. But how the hell did this guy have the fortitude to deal with that?
I'm sure they called him every racial slur in the book when he first started, so he must have done something right.
And think of it this way, maybe he did this all at once, but it says for the last 3 years, so I gotta think, what if he did it one person at a time and had to go through the first couple meetings of them just
berating him,
just trying to tear him down?
Yeah, for sure.
And he's just like, yep, how you doing?
This is how you stop racial injustice, by going up to those who oppose you and trying to be friends with them, because you are setting an example that says, you may hate me, but I don't hate you. And I'm going to do everything I can to change the fact that you hate me. And I'm going to be courteous, I'm going to be respectful, and I'm going to show you that because we're different skin colors doesn't mean that you're better than me or I'm better than you. We are all people.
It's good. It just makes you feel good. Alright, so the last two. This one, I don't know how this would feel good, but I just thought it was fascinating. More of just a plain rapid fire news. A man takes a nail to the heart, calmly drives himself to the hospital, and then survives. What was going through his mind when he just found a nail in his heart?
I'll tell you what was going through his mind. Steve Irwin. Aye, this is a stingray. I'm going to go pet it. And then stabbed him, and then Steve Irwin tried to take it out. That was his demise. I bet you this guy didn't take the nail out. And that's why he lived. I'd like to know how you get a nail in the heart, but...
That's what I'm reading up on. Just give me 2 minutes. The 52-year-old man from Wisconsin was building a fireplace frame for a house back in June when his nail gun accidentally fired, sending a 3.5-inch nail ricocheting off the building into his chest.
Jesus.
He said he only felt a slight sting and nothing worse. Since he couldn't see anything, he took his shirt off and only saw a half an inch of the nail sticking out of his skin. And he just got up and drove himself to the hospital. He's like, oh no.
Hi, yes, I'd like to check myself in. What seems to be the problem, sir? I have a 3.5-inch nail in my stomach. Yeah, we're gonna put you at the top of the list.
What do you think? Like that drive was like? No, you go ahead. I only got a nail in the heart.
Just listening to music.
Just, like, how this dude must have been on something. Cause no way you take a nail to the heart and just go, I should get that looked at.
Yeah, I probably should maybe go see a doctor sometime soon.
I would have flipped shit.
Well, you freak out when you get a splinter, so...
Wow. I was 4.
Nope, you were like 15.
No, I wasn't.
You were afraid of wood until you were like 15 years old.
However, last one. This one was actually the one that got me started on this idea. I told you about this earlier. A Vietnam vet with dementia who's living in a care home.
Right.
Wakes up every night screaming and trying to fight his way out of the building because he thinks he has to go back into the fight.
Right.
I believe it was his grandchildren or his daughter started calling up military people as best as they could, trying to find a way to somehow make this man feel at peace. And it kept getting circulated on the internet, and finally somehow it reached the man who was, I believe, his commanding officer in the same platoon in the Vietnam War, who came to his home and presented him with a certificate of discharge, and said, "Your duty is done. America thanks you. You can rest easy." Mm-hmm. And that just made me like. That's, like I said, that's what got me started on this happy rapid fire news. It just made me feel so good that there's, with all the shit that goes on that we talked about in the first segment, there's still good people who are willing to do good things just because it is right to do them.
Right.
It's not for personal gain. It's not for pride. It's not for fame. It's just because they knew it was right and it would help another human being out. And I thought that was amazing, and I really wanted to get a lighted-hearted segment on this.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let's wrap it up on this segment. We'll get all back. Words. We got to use them.
You have a stroke?
I think I may have. We'll go to break, and on the other side, we'll finish things up with a little bit, 15 more minutes. Maybe we'll call it 15 minutes of fame. We'll just go rapid fire, different directions. Whatever comes into our stupid little heads, that's what we'll finish up with. You're listening to the 12th episode of Baron Banter right here on YouTube. Welcome back into the final segment of Baron Banter here on this Friday edition. Tyler Zulli alongside Brandon Zulli. You can check us out on Twitter. Follow at EasyModeEarls for all the videos. You can also follow myself at TZull34. That's TZULL34. You can find us on YouTube as well at the Easy Mode Earls. You'll find all our episodes of Baron Banter alongside all of the video game playthroughs that Brandon and Devin do. Maybe Devin will make an appearance on one of these podcasts one day soon.
Hopefully, he was hoping to come on today, but unfortunately the time frames didn't work out.
Yeah, he gets done work as I kind of have to leave for work. So
unfortunately, it couldn't work out today. Hopefully soon, Devin. Hopefully soon.
We'll get you on there soon, though. We'll get a third voice. Obviously, Chris hangs around as well with us from time to time. Now that he started school and working again, he's going to be a little bit more sporadic than he was in the summer months, but we'll get a rotating panel of guests regardless of what happens. Each and every week, it'll be myself, Tyler Zulli, and my brother Brandon Zulli, bringing you the latest news and crazy, wacky things that go on inside our head. Now, Brandon, for this last segment, I did say that we were going to do a little bit of a hodgepodge of topics, so I'd like to start one off. I know we've got some more to discuss, but I'd like to kind of go back to an episode we did 2 weeks ago. You remember how I had a rant on the season extending in my baseball league, and it was basically all one team's fault?
Yes.
So the funny thing about that team being, so that night was the night that we were supposed to play a game in order to see who would go to the winner's bracket championship. So it was double elimination. So we were in the semifinals of all the teams that hadn't lost yet. So there were 4 teams that hadn't lost. It was ourselves, Northampton, Liberty Bell, and Valley. And we expected it to be us and Liberty Bell in the winner's bracket championship. Well, it turns out Liberty Bell ends up losing 19-2 to Northampton. So they go to the loser's bracket. We then beat Northampton a few days later. So we're sitting in the championship. Rain delays all week long. So we hadn't played in a week and a half. Liberty Bell goes all the way up the loser's bracket and makes it back to us. So we are playing in the championship game last Thursday night. So we start the game off, 2 good pitchers on the mound, our best versus their best in a championship game. They have to beat us twice to win the championship. We only have to win once. So we're playing, first inning goes by, no score. Next 7 innings go by. So 7 innings go by. We play 7 total innings. Nothing. So we go into extra innings. No score in the 8th. No score as we head to the 9th, right? So bottom of the 9th, we're up to bat. Nothing. It's getting, it's to the point where it's dark now. It's like a little bit past 8:30. A game had been going on for a little over 2 hours, so it was dark. Our lights are on at the field. The lights shut off. The power just goes out in the entire complex. Stop the game. We wait to try to turn them on. Now, these are the big bulbs at baseball stadiums that take a while to heat up. So they take a little bit to heat up. We finally get them going again. We can't score in the 9th. We go to the 10th. Top of the 10th, they don't score. Bottom of the 10th, I get to third base. I don't get the score though. So we go to the top of the 11th. They don't score. Bottom of the 11th comes around. We have guys on first and third with 1 out. As the pitcher's about to deliver, lights go out again. Lights shut down for the second time. Home plate umpire goes, "That's it, we're suspending the game." And both teams who have been playing, both teams trying to play the championship today come running out of the dugout. Whoa. What are you doing? We're not suspending the game. We're playing. He goes, "I'm not dealing with this anymore. We'll play it tomorrow." And both teams are like, "No, that's not happening. We're playing today. We'll wait for the lights to come back on." The umpire says, I'm canceling it. He leaves. Him and his crew leave. So we're like, what the heck are we supposed to do? We got to come back tomorrow and play?
Play the game from the start?
No. We got to play from where we were at. Oh. So we had first and third and 1 out. Bottom of the 11th inning. There's a game that's supposed to be played after us. The team younger than us. Those umpires have showed up, and they're all a part of the same umpire group. Those umps go, "Well, if the lights come back on, we'll do your game." We're like, all right, sweet. We're going to play. Lights finally come back on. We get bases loaded, 1 out. Our best hitter comes up. He strikes out. So I come up. Bases loaded, 2 outs. 3-2 pitch. Guy throws ball 4. We win 1-0 on a walk-off walk to win the championship. 10 minutes after our game ends, lights go out again. They don't come back on for the rest of the night. So we just got the game in, but it was kind of funny that I was yelling at the mic a couple of weeks ago saying these guys are causing problems. and it ended up being our facility that made the game go way longer than it should have been. But we did win the championship, so we're good to go.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
Could it be they were sabotaging your
It was
equipment?
a setup. Liberty Bell knew they were going to lose the game.
Because they didn't have their best player that night?
No, they had all their best players. But that's what I have for my...
3 times in a row.
3 times within the span of an hour, the lights shut off.
That's amazing. That is so bad. I mean, once... Okay, faulty wiring happens. Maybe a bulb blew or something was short-circuited. Twice, this is a little annoying. 3 times. 3 times you have to say, enough of this shit.
I think it's time to stop the game.
I can
But
understand
we just
why
got it done.
I can understand why the umpire left.
You can't leave, though. You can't just leave.
He's got a
game
family to go to.
He's getting paid no matter what. He just straight up left.
How good did it feel, though, that you crushed the team that caused you problems before?
It was huge. It was very huge. I mean, we didn't crush them. It was 1-0. We won the game 1-0. So it wasn't really crush them, but it was so great to beat them in the championship game.
Now,
that's all I got, though, on that story. You got anything interesting to tell?
Well, I wanted to actually ask about Disney pulling their stuff from Netflix. I know we talk about Disney all the time.
All the time.
I know,
that's all right.
But I want to ask, do you think it's a smart move to pull their stuff from Netflix?
I do.
Why?
Because Disney has a monopoly on their movies. Of course they do. They're their movies. They own the rights to them. Now they're going to set up a different streaming service that is strictly Disney movies and anything that Disney owns in their subsidiaries. So animated movies, live action movies, Marvel movies now. Star Wars, and anything else they own. Disney could charge me whatever Disney wants to charge, and I'm dropping my Netflix account for that Disney.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
You would stop paying for Netflix
in order to get
Lion King.
Yeah.
Which we have.
Yep.
Or Toy Story, which we have.
Yep.
Or Tarzan, or Hercules, or I don't know, Pirates.
Yep.
Which Netflix has.
Yep. But Netflix won't have it.
Soon, yes. I still think, while I think the Disney-only thing is a good idea, because obviously people will pay for it.
They're going to make a ton of money off it.
Oh, absolutely. I still think they should keep a few things on Netflix.
Why?
Because that's more money they get in.
They're going to get all their money from this Disney channel, though.
Yeah, but you put all the movies on the Disney one, you put some of it on Netflix, you're still getting money from Netflix.
Not as much as if they owned their own station, though.
Yeah, but you're getting money from both.
Yeah, but you're going to make less money is what I'm saying, per subscription. If you have a couple of movies on Netflix, you're going to get X amount of dollars. If you have your own station and you get every subscription, that money is going to equate. You may get less subscribers, but you're going to make more money.
I still think I don't think they should pull it. I think it would be a bad business decision. While I will agree, having their own great business decision.
It's a great business
absolutely decision. Wonderful idea. And like you said, you'd probably buy it. We might get it. But I still think they should keep some stuff on Netflix. Maybe at the very least some of their live action stuff, or like a Star Wars movie like Rogue One. But that's just my opinion on it.
I just have to entirely disagree with you. I think the business model that Disney has portrayed is one of dominance and one of we're going to take everything that we want.
Well, they can.
They absolutely can.
They own the world.
Well, and here's the reason as to why it's going to work. Like I said, if a Netflix subscription, what do we pay a month for Netflix? $10?
Yes.
We pay $10 a month for Netflix.
2 screens.
For 2 screens. But we have a limited amount of Disney movies. Now, granted, not everybody's going to buy the Disney account because they want a larger share of movies. They want a larger option list. So maybe not everybody buys the account. And maybe the Disney account's $20 a month.
It was 12, I believe.
So it's 12. So it's going to be $2 more for us to get Disney as opposed to for us to get Netflix. So effectively, you and I split Netflix. We pay $5 each. If we were to pay $6 each, which of course is only $1 more, we're getting all the Disney catalog instead. So the number of dollars that Disney makes, while they may not get 100% or more of Netflix subscribers, let's say they even only get 50% of Netflix subscribers. So that means for every $20 spent on Netflix, only $10 comes in from Disney, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or $12 comes in for Disney. But Disney's getting all 12 of those dollars, whereas Netflix probably gets 18 and Disney gets 2 for their movies. You know what I'm saying?
True.
So in terms of maybe not having as many subscribers, but making more money, they're going to simply outspend, or people are going to outspend and make Disney more money on their own website and on their own streaming source.
I can understand that. I just don't want to lose my Disney movies on Netflix.
So just buy the Disney account.
Well, I think we will.
We probably will.
I think we should.
I'll drop Netflix for the Disney account.
I would rather not.
So you want both?
I'd do that.
So and then that brings you back to another thing. How many people are going to have both?
That's
a lot.
That's what I'm arguing. Both would give you more money. So why take your stuff off of Netflix but still have the Disney stream?
Because they make all the money off the Disney stream.
But then people who have both are giving you twice the money.
They're not, though, because Disney doesn't get... If a Netflix account is $10, Disney doesn't get $10. They might get 40 cents.
It's still 40 cents more.
Right, but if you have the Disney subscription, you get all $12.
Yes, but if you have both, you get more money.
Not everybody's going to buy both, though. There are going to be a lot of people like myself. I know you said you wanted both, but people like myself are going to have to make a decision. And I would choose the Disney one over the Netflix one.
I think we're at a stalemate here, my friend.
I guess so. This is where we need a third person to break the tie.
Call up Chris.
Yeah, right.
I'll call up Devin.
Have to give him a call and see what they say. But we'll put that up on... Why don't you comment on that if you have an opinion on it? Put it up on underneath the video on the comments section. Would you rather pay for both? Do you think Disney's making the right decision? Would you pay for one over the other? Would Disney make more money outright if people just bought their own subscription? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Brandon? Let us know in the comment section below. Give us a like and a subscription if you like what you heard today. Other than that, I think we'll shut it down for this Friday's episode unless you got anything else to say.
I do not. Oh, I would like to thank Interesting People Pod.
There you go.
For retweeting most and or all of Chris's and yours tweets about the Baron Banters. We really appreciate that.
Thank you very much for your support. We will continue to give you guys a shout out as you continue to retweet our stuff. But other than that, I'm going to say goodnight and good afternoon and good weekend for my partner in crime, Brandon Zulli. I am Tyler Zulli, saying thank you so much for tuning in. If it's your first time tuning in, this 12th episode, I should say, thank you for your first listen. If you've listened to most or all of our 12 podcasts so far, I say thank you for your continued support. As always, continue to check us out on YouTube at Easy Mode Earls. Check us out on Twitter at Easy Mode Earls. You can follow me as well at Tzul34. That's TZULL34. You can follow us for the latest Baron Banter. You can follow myself for more sport-minded related tweets and things along that nature. And just follow us on YouTube as well and give us a subscription. Saying thank you and have a great weekend as always.